Welcome to Weaponized News with your hosts, Stuart Webb and Sam Cheney, fighting the international bankers' one world government scientific dictatorship. Break the mind control. Be the change you want to see in the world. And now, broadcasting live from FEMA Sector 9, it's time for Weaponized News.
That's right. And if you were watching at the beginning, we have some twerking going on. Or
Sorry.
I don't know. Is it called twerking, or is it doogieing, or jerking?
I don't know, Marcus looked like he was doing the stanky leg.
There you go. It's a stanky leg.
Watch me whip.
Now
watch me nay-nay.
There we go. It's the song with all the dances combined.
Now watch me whip. And watch me nay-nay.
Sorry, it's just
What the hell is a nay-nay?
I have no idea.
Okay.
I danced, and I have to live with that for the rest of my life.
It's on record. It's on YouTube, or it will be. Folks, Weaponized News, weaponizednews.com is our website. I'm your host, Stuart Webb, along with my co-host, Sam Cheney, and our producer, Woody, in the studio. We have a jam-packed show. Our first guest is a frequent guest on this show, our buddy Marcus Ruiz-Evans, the author of California's Next Century, which everyone should go pick up, Amazon.com. Just search it. It lays out exactly why California should have subnational sovereignty, and it has a lot of extra stuff about American history in there, which is also great to know that most people don't. So go pick it up, California's Next Century. Marcus is also the research director.
Thank you.
For Sovereign California, sovereignca.org, an organization that a political action committee that Sam and I are also a part of. So we have him here to talk about a couple different things, and just Sovereign California, the organization as a whole. Marcus, how are you doing today?
Great to be back here at 1680. Great to be back here with Weaponized News. Always appreciate the support, always appreciate the conversations. And I got to say, just because it takes me back, Sam, thanks for answering my email, my phone calls when I saw your show years ago.
Radical Sam.
And that started a whole journey. And I appreciate it.
Well, you're welcome. And let's thank President CMAC for continuing to broadcast Weaponized News every Monday through Saturday night, 6 to 7 p.m. on Comcast Channel 99 and AT&T Uverse Channel 93.
Yeah, just to add to what Marcus said, I remember seeing Sam. I watched him on YouTube, and that's how I connected with him as well. And so, folks, you need to connect with people in your area that are fighting tyranny and looking for free market solutions, political solutions to what's happening right now, decentralization of government. But I remember Sam was like ranting about Obama when he came to Fresno, and he did a video, and he was just in front of the camera. And I don't know if you were filming it yourself or someone else was, but it was all shaky. And I was like, this guy knows what he's talking about. I like this guy. But man, whoever's doing his videos, like whoever's like actually doing the video, cannot hold it straight. But anyway, that's my vivid memory of connecting with this guy over here. But folks, hey, we've got to support alternative media. We've got to support the little guy, the localization, and alternative media in general, because the establishment won't cover what we need them to cover, and they have corporate welfare. Let's just be honest.
6 corporations control the mainstream media at this point.
Support Weaponized News. Support sovereigncalifornia.org. Support the movement, because it's a decentralization solution, decentralization of government. We don't. Everyone in the organization, the political action committee, doesn't agree on everything, but we agree. Like Sam would say, we agree probably 80%, and then the other 20% you can debate about or whatnot. But we don't have to agree on everything, okay? No, that's the problem, is that the establishment wants you to be like, oh, if you are not completely against cops all the time and want them to all be dead, you can't hang out with me.
Yeah.
Coke
I
or
mean, it's just ridiculous.
It's false paradigm, left-right paradigm to have a say.
I had some buddies arguing on my Facebook page, and it was entertaining because I was like, hey, guys, everyone should just see each person's points and just admit that, hey, we do have some good points on both sides. Let's acknowledge it and then grow from there. Let's not be divisive. Let's bring people together. But anyway, we're here with Marcus Ruiz-Evans to talk about Sovereign California and an interesting list that he's going to go over. Marcus, do you want to...
Well, let's get into it, though. But one of the main reasons that I'm with Sovereign California and supporting their efforts is because I can see the writing on the wall the decline of the United States empire. The federal government has massively overreached. We're in, what do we have, over 800 foreign military bases? I mean,
Current still, yeah.
Yeah, we're doing proxy wars all over the world. We're still in the Middle East, in Afghanistan, in Iraq. And so this is not sustainable. We have over $18 trillion in public debt. And that's not counting unfunded liabilities.
Which is like $200 trillion.
It's not counting
It's
that.
like ridiculous.
And so this is not a sustainable system that the federal government's running right now. It's like they have the pedal to the metal to run us right into the ground. And so we see this article out of the BBC, and some people might say, well, that's British propaganda against America, but it lays it out pretty clearly. The headline reads, "The Decline of U.S. Power," and that's just one of the articles that we're going to go over. And so we're trying to position ourselves before the fall to cushion California so we don't fall right off the edge of a cliff and go into a banana republic military dictatorship, which is the way the federal government's pointing us. And so that's the reason why we have to take political action now with Sovereign California, because we can see the decline of the United States federal government's empire.
And when we say going off the cliff, we don't literally mean California falling into the ocean, like the movie.
No, I mean,
politically, economically, falling off the cliff,
Yes.
becoming basically serfdom.
Socially.
You'll just be a serf, and you'll be ran by some big central government over in the middle and across the world. Folks, Sovereign California is about actual local control, state control of their own resources instead of some distant land like Marcus will talk about, the distant, far-off national government, the big central government that is completely disconnected. That is what's happened. Should Obama run Fresno? No, our mayor should, but even if you disagree with our mayor, that's a whole different story. But should Obama? Because basically the federal government is becoming the person in charge of all your local issues. That's what it's federal encroachment, and we need and Sovereign California is a solution to the federal encroachment. Anyway,
So Marcus, Marcus,
absolutely.
let's go over the decline of the empire. I mean, you give us a bunch of articles here. You want to go over it?
Yeah, I like, I like writing books, and I like doing research.
you got another book coming or what? Maybe?
Yeah, actually, I mean, we're trying to write a book for Sovereign California talking about all the initiatives that have been filed, but explaining it to someone as if you were having coffee.
There you go.
And then so it's not as cold and steely, but it's more comforting and soft and easier for people to digest and feel. Mm-hmm. And so the initiatives are coming out right now. We're getting statewide news coverage basically every month about that. A few weeks ago, we had two different state news agencies, I think one in Sacramento and one in San Diego, coincidentally choose to cover Southern California on the same day. Now, they didn't coordinate that, but that's kind of showing progress. You go back 6 months ago, it was hard to get any news coverage. Now we're getting about
Now they have to cover it.
Well, yeah.
Because it's newsworthy. All the initiatives. We are
Yeah.
putting out actual solutions, initiatives. We're a political action committee that is actually rattling the cages a little bit, wouldn't you say, Marcus? We're making an impact. We're bringing the discussion to the forefront, especially with California. The federal government controls a lot of our water.
Yeah.
How do Californians feel about that? Especially we're in a drought. How do we feel about federal regulation when we need to control more of what happens here? And that Sovereign California is the solution.
Oh, yeah, and especially because Governor Schwarzenegger asked President Obama for water, and he told him, quotes, "Water's not a right,
Privilege.
it's a privilege." And now here we are in the drought.
Yeah. There you go.
Just kind of interesting. So, yeah, we are looking at books. We are looking at different stuff. We're getting in the news. 6 months ago is hard. Now, every month, it's a couple news articles, 1 to 5 a month. 2 months ago, we started getting in TV for the first time. Now that's becoming more regular. Last month was the first time that there was 2 different news agencies in different parts of the state that just happened to run an article on Southern California the same day. So if you look at it as a trajectory, and I like numbers, for me, a trajectory shows everything. You can see how it's becoming more and more mainstream. And that's
More relevant.
That's the whole point, is let's have this discussion.
Totally.
You don't like our solutions, fine, but at least be aware and talk about it.
And the president of Sovereign California, Louis
Yeah.
Marinelli, is now taking to actually running for public office.
Yes, yeah.
And so that is the next step where he's going to, where we can actually have candidates run under this platform.
Oh,
right?
yeah, absolutely. Louis Marinelli, the CEO of Sovereign California, is. We're not fully ready to announce this. I'm just going to say he's going to be running for Assembly.
Yeah.
I won't go into any more details, but more announcements will be coming soon. And yeah, this will be like the first candidate to run on
this
the
platform.
Yeah, on the platform, on the concept that California could overall, any problem that you have could be better if California handled it more on its own.
Absolutely.
And we know, though, I mean, the mainstream media is going to sit here and tell us we're in an economic recovery when we have, 93 million people in this country
They don't even
unemployed.
count them in the
They don't even
statistic.
count. I mean, you could go out to the west side here in the Central Valley, Mendota, Fireball, and they're looking at 40+% unemployment in this drought. I mean, they're basically collapsed economies in these small farming towns, but they're going to tell us we're in an economic recovery. So we can already see what has happened just due to this drought alone. And so if they may not be feeling it up there in San Francisco and LA, where the large majority of the voting base is, but we definitely feel it here. And so we are ready to take action to prepare for the fall that this federal government is lining us up for.
Yeah, and that's just it, is that we got a lot of citations here, and it started with Sam pointing out this BBC article, The Decline of U.S. Power, by Nick Bryant in 2015. And then I go, I read that article, and in that article it said, quotes, "Indeed, there are foreign policy thinkers here who predict that America will preserve its preeminence for at least another 20 years. And I thought, I've seen that 20-year estimate before. And so I started digging, and you guys had the citations there. I love, references. But all these citations, I think there's like 15 or 10, all they do is say that a bunch of people who study foreign policy have written in mainstream magazines that you've heard that America's got about 20 more years as an empire, and then it's going to be over as an empire.
If we stay on this current path.
Oh, sure. Yeah, I mean,
Could be sooner.
if there's
Could be later.
Could be later. Could
yeah.
take.
But
40
on
years.
average, the consensus out there is 20 years.
Yeah. So if you have a child born today, when they're an adult, around 18 years old age, like, it's time for you to be an adult and get out there and do your own thing, they will be entering into a life as an American that doesn't resemble your life or your parents or your grandparents. Maybe your grandparents when they were children, 1930s, early 1940s.
A depression.
Yeah. We're going to be returning back to that 1920s, 1930s era when America was not a empire, but just a regular country, and it wasn't able to control the money supply and therefore inflate the value of the dollar artificially, which has elevated American living standards. So that dollar inflation is going to go away. And we're going to have the real value of the dollar, not what the Federal Reserve or the federal government says it is, the actual value.
Because our dollar only holds value because we have a massive military and we're in a bunch of countries.
Yes.
We have a barrel of a gun to certain countries' heads that are stuck to that are beholden to the dollar. As far as like trading and use, it's actually still worth something. And those countries also have the same issue that we have, but we're just the huge, massive empire. We're the top of a mountain, sinking, but we're at the top of it. Correct? Something similar to that.
Yeah, exactly. So if you are Iran and you want to sell oil to Russia, to pariah countries, to the American empire, you have to sell it in dollars. You can say death to America and Iran, and you can say we don't like America and Russia, but the Iranians have to pay the Russians in U.S. dollars, or the Russians have to pay the Iranians in U.S. dollars. So all the enemies have to use U.S. dollars, basically. And what that does is it means that if they have to use your U.S. dollars, they need the dollars. So it makes a higher demand for the dollars, which raises the value for the dollars.
Now, why do they have? Now, I don't know if you could speak to this. Why do they have to trade in U.S. dollars? Can't they? I thought Russia and China, they created BRICS, right, with these five other countries. Now, is that something similar to eliminating trading with dollars that they're going to be trading with their currencies, right? Or how does that work? why does Iran have to trade with U.S. dollar?
Well, the answer is yes to both your things. So the reason everybody has to trade in U.S. dollars is that America, in cooperation with England after World War II, created basically the global economic system as we understand it today. It was called the Bretton Woods Conference, and they made it where international trade has to be done in dollars. So as other countries started doing international trade, it was kind of demanded that you use U.S. dollars, and they fell into it. However, getting exactly right, Stuart, that the BRIC countries, which are superpowers, are starting to say, well, we don't want to do that.
Yeah.
I don't make me. I don't want to. And starting to, and so you have China has an agreement with, I believe, England and Brazil to use Chinese yuan.
Really?
Or Chinese money. Now, that just happened in the last 2-3 years.
Yeah.
And it's only between China and a few countries, but it is for the first time since World War II where someone else has forced their money
their currency to be the international currency in between those little countries with their agreements.
Well, the dollar's the world reserve currency as of right now, but it's losing its
prestige. It's confidence. There we go. That's a good word. It's the confidence
in the market with the rest of the world because they've seen how America's acting as the global empire.
Policemen of the world as well.
Forcing their will on the rest of the world with their military.
And when we have an inflated dollar, and I know we're getting a little off the subject, but this is all ties in.
It relates.
It totally relates. This is what Sovereign California is about. We're trying to get off the sinking ship and get in a lifeboat.
Yeah.
So we're living, that's why we can only have 93 million people unemployed on food stamps, on government assistance, because we have a higher living standard than what the reality is if we weren't the world reserve currency, right? We are living way above what the reality is of what our currency really is valued at. We're only valued because we're the world reserve currency. But once that stops, all those people unemployed on government assistance, that'll all end, and we will literally have soup lines, a depression. Now, that may take 20 years. But the reason we are living above our means because we don't manufacture hardly anything anymore here. It's all outsourced, and it's basically we're printing money. We're deficit spending. We don't have the money, and the only reason we can sustain it right now is because people will still take our dollar. It's still worth something, basically, right?
Yeah. Yes. Everything you said.
Yeah.
Everything you said. And I just want to point out, you can talk to your grandparents, and you can ask them, let's look at 1920. 1920 was before America was an empire, before the dollar was the global reserve, and it was a good economic time. We called the Roaring Twenties. It was prosperous. Even then, in the 1920s, U.S. dollar was valued at what it was, and the economy was doing well. Living standards then were almost exactly what they were in Mexico at that time.
Wow.
So you look then, people did not have toilets.
Yeah.
They went to the bathroom in a dirt hole in the back of their yard. Yeah. There were not streets. There was not plumbing. There was not electricity. There was not telephones. And that was normal for 90% of all Americans in the 1920s. And this is when the economy is doing well.
Yeah, yeah.
So when we talk about what's the real value of the U.S. dollar, and it might be going back to its real value, I want everybody to go talk to their grandparents or the great-grandparents.
See what it's going to be like to live with, in a one-bedroom apartment with no toilet. Who knows?
That was normal.
Yeah.
That was normal. Nobody thought anything wrong with it. This is 1920. This is the way they lived 1700s, 1800s, 1920. People live closer to a poor Latin American country.
Yeah.
So maybe that's what the actual value of America is going to be when the dollar returns to its real value, is that Americans will find that it's not horrible.
Yeah.
But this idea that you're a first world country and
it'll be gone.
You'll live more like Peru.
Yeah.
Panama.
Mexico. It's a race to the bottom.
Yeah.
And the reason why they're doing this is so they can collapse. They've used the American empire, and they continue to use it now, but it's a slow burn to bring us down to the level of the rest of the world so they can bring in one world government, one world currency, and control everything that way. That's what the Anglo-American establishment is going for. But you have these other power blocks, say Russia, China, who want their own world empire. and their own world government that they control.
Yeah.
And so it's a battle between these different power blocks that we see right now, and they're using America up, and the American people seem blind to it because they're distracted with entertainment, their cell phones, and whatnot, and don't have any interest in even understanding basic economics, and it's killing this country. We're living in a country of the majority of people being economically illiterate and no understanding about how anything even operates.
Yeah, and you talked about it in your book. The first part of your book is about how there's basically there's a bunch of superpowers now, and America can't just say, "Oh, we're the superpower. We lead the world," and this and that, because we don't anymore. Now there's other superpowers to compete, and also a lot of people are just they don't like us that much anymore. And we're not saying that we dislike America. We're saying what America's become is basically people living way above, outside of their means, above what the reality is, and then allowing politicians and to make economic policy that's just insane.
I'm sorry.
So it'll completely collapse the system.
This country, shadow elements within it have a long history of overthrowing sovereign governments.
Iran,
you could look all over the Middle East, all over South America. It's all on record. A bunch of elected officials in those countries have been overthrown by our government. Okay, we're running a bunch of proxy wars all over the world right now. We're drone bombing women and children all over the Middle East. And so there's a lot of reasons for the rest of the world to not like America.
Yeah, and it hasn't. This is key.
It hasn't hit the American public because the mainstream media won't report on these things.
Well, and even when they do, they kind of mislead us.
They whitewash it.
Well, they go, okay, so President Obama is more like than George W. Bush. Okay, but how well America was liked before 9/11, even through President Obama, America has not returned to that level.
Yes.
So Obama has improved the situation from George W. Bush as far as perception by the world, but he has not fixed it.
Yeah.
It is still on a downward trajectory. It is still not to where it was in the year 2000 and before the 9/11 attacks. So America really messed up going into Iraq, and it has not improved its public reputation. Even with President Obama's almost 2 terms, it hasn't fixed it. It's still down. And in certain areas, such as Germany and Africa, ironically, it's gotten worse.
Well, I mean, it comes out the NSA spying on all these foreign governments. I mean, talk about destroying international relations.
Yeah.
Well, and that's the thing, folks. When administrations change, nothing changes because the executive branch is now basically a dictatorial branch. But the government's one and the same. The 3 branches are all the same now because they like each other. They do favors for each other. Basically, Obama, all he had to do, since we've never officially declared war, we haven't declared war on a country yet. I mean, since World War II. So all Obama has to do is since he's in the executive branch, he is the commander-in-chief. He just says he has to say, all troops, you will return home now, because the executive branch, the president, deals with foreign affairs. That's one of his only job positions. So really, Obama actually has the power to do it, but he doesn't. So of course, we're going to go on and on with these illegal foreign interventions and wars.
Kinetic actions.
Kinetic actions, because they just continue. Perpetual state of war. So let's get into a couple more of these links. So we got this Ghost Fleet. Is this a book, right?
Yeah. So I'll just
now. What does it describe in this book about what we can see in the future?
Well, I'll just go through them real quick. These are all references, mainstream, where they talk about the American Empire will end in 20 years. So check it out for yourself. Ghost Fleet, a new novel by P.W. Singer and August Cole, came out in 2015. It makes that projection. The Decline of U.S. Power by Nick Bryant, BBC, 2015, the article that Sam brought up. The World as It Is, Dispatches on the Myth of Human Progress by Chris Hedges, 2013. He's an author. The Logical and Coming Into the U.S. Empire by Robert Bell, Counterpunch, 2013. Retiring the American Empire by John Pfeffer, Director of Foreign Policy and Focus, Huffington Post, 2013. Collapse of an Empire, Why America Fell So Far So Fast, All Empires Crash Soon After They Reached Their Peak by Washington's blog, Global Research, 2013. The End of Pax America, How Western Decline Became Inevitable. The Euro-Atlantic World Had a Long Run of Global Dominance, but It Is Coming to an End by Christopher Lane at The Atlantic. Atlantic 2012. Sleepwalking into the Imperial Dark, What It Feels Like When the American Superpower Runs Off the Tracks by Tom Engelhart, Mother Jones, 2011. The Decline and Fall of the American Empire by CBS News, 2010. What the World Will Look Like by 2015 by Alyssa Fatini, Time, 2009. Obama Won't Stop the Collapse of the American Empire by Washington's Blog, Global Research, 2008. And The Twilight of American Culture by Morris Berman, New York Times, 2000. And all those references say the same thing. They give an estimate that 20 years, maybe 15 from now, American Empire is going to be over. That's the whole point of having all these sources. Magazines you've heard of, New York Times, Time Magazine, Huffington Post. Because when I bring this up, people are like, oh, where'd you get that up? Some obscure magazine? No.
Here's all the citations.
Yeah.
No, and it'll be in this YouTube video. It's not some crazy conspiracy theory. This is the facts, and so we need to prepare now because it's reasonable, rational, and logical. Is that correct, Marcus?
It's radical.
Well, if the American Empire is coming to a close in 20 years and the dollar's inflated and it's going to go to its real value, which is going to lower the cost of living, and California is the only top 10 economy that has a living standard equivalent to Europe and could be a nation and acts like a nation on its own, then you can either sink with the big ship or you can get on your own yacht, which isn't as big as the big ship but is still a luxury liner.
Oh, yeah.
So what would you rather do? Do you want to sink? Or do you want to get on a new boat, folks? And if you want that new boat, the website to go to is sovereignca.org.
We got to take a quick break, but we're going to come back, and I think we have a couple more things to go over this, right? Correct, Marcus? Sure. We'll go over that. But yeah, wait, are we taking a break?
No break yet.
No break. Okay.
Keep going.
So, folks, like you said, the American Empire will end, but a big problem of why the big reason why that's going to happen is because a lot of people don't want to admit that we've fallen off the deep end, okay? And so we need to admit what has happened to the country instead of fighting about some flag. It's just so mindless. Oh my gosh, the flag's racist, or oh my gosh, it's, we need to burn it, or oh my gosh, let's burn the American flag. It's just so mindless. And we're arguing about it with each other, or whether we should not have cops. Look, that's a whole nother discussion, but we should discuss it. We should also speak to police instead of just saying, I'm not going to budge on this issue and I'm not going to hear anyone else's viewpoint. We should hear everyone's viewpoint. That's how we maintain freedom of speech. See, a lot of our rights have been eroded because people aren't willing. They are intolerant, basically. The public is intolerant to other people's viewpoints. Even if you look at this transgender issue, can I be someone who says, you know what, I don't really cave to or am beholden to the LGBT agenda. I don't think it's correct, but that's fine. They can live that lifestyle. A lot of what the establishment is saying, no, you need to not only accept it, but you need to praise it, and you cannot speak about how you disagree with it. So our intolerance, when people think that they're being liberal and super tolerant, but not being tolerant of people that disagree with their viewpoint, you are the intolerant bigots. And this is one big issue with the fall of America. We don't value the freedom of speech anymore. Our First Amendment. So we have people arguing about things, saying you guys are wrong, or no, you are wrong. How about you say, you know what, I disagree. We both disagree, but we will defend to the right for that you have to say your opinion, to be able to have freedom of speech. The problem is we're losing that. Now people are saying, nope, you have no freedom of speech. If we lose one of the Bill of Rights, the entire Constitution's gone. America's gone. Okay? So that's a huge problem. So if we want to fix this problem, we need to start talking about how we are losing all our rights. Don't say, no, you need to support the military and everything they do. Well, maybe we should support the troops because we support them. They're not making the decisions, the policy decisions. Let's not support the policymakers, okay? So when we say we're against the wars, we're not against the troops. We are against the policymakers, the executive branch, Congress, which gives the executive branch power to go and just have a perpetual state of war with whoever they want. So let's have a discussion Okay, don't just say, no, you're against the military, or no, we're against the military because the troops are bad. They're the ones that are killing people. Look, the policymakers are the problem. Can we talk about, let's have a discussion about how the policymakers are the issue, okay? And we need to fire them, okay? You can't just turn on the TV and say, you know what, that's scary, I don't want to talk about it. Get involved. This is the reason why America has fallen off the deep end. It's because we won't discuss it rationally.
Yeah, well,
Yeah.
Stuart.
We won't have a reasonable discussion about it.
Stuart, and we should be.
No one wants
Why
to.
is everybody?
Yeah.
Why is everybody? If you're against the war, you're against the troop. That's a false.
It's totally a talking point.
That's a false
what it is.
argument.
An establishment talking point. Right?
If you love the troops so much,
Tell them the truth.
No, well then why are we not all over the VA's butt?
There you go. Exactly.
Because the VA. Okay, we got a little bit unorganized here, but I'll flow with it. The VA now.
Flow.
Yeah, the VA last year, the scandal broke that they're not giving troops treatment, combat veterans who've went over there and served their country. Regardless, you know what our attitude about it is? It's unconstitutional foreign wars of aggression. If it's a real war, declare it in Congress, and then we can have a debate about that. But it's never been declared war, so it's just black operations, kinetic actions, police actions, whatever lawyer name they want to give it. But so our troops go over there. They fight for the empire, for these private corporations, stealing the rest of the world's resources, and they get blown up. They have PTSD, and so it's they give their life basically for their patriotism, for the flag. But they come back here and we do not take care of them. So where is the public outrage about the VA? Lawmakers from both parties accused the Department of Veterans Affairs Wednesday, this is the article out of the AP, of hiding details of a budget crisis that would force the shutdown of some VA hospitals next month. So we can have never-ending perpetual war, but we can't even fund the veterans' hospitals to take care of the guys over there fighting these wars.
And then the government says, we're going to take care of health care for the regular citizens, and we can't even do it for the military.
Yeah, that's the model that we need to look at.
Government-run healthcare, which is the VA, and they can't even do that correctly. They'll just give you a pill. Before we get into, are we going to go over some news, Sam? Is that, and Marcus will just sit in?
I guess.
No, that's fine. There's plenty to go, and you know what? We all have opinions, so let's just talk.
do it.
Before we do it, let's go over how much California gives to the federal government, and how much they get back. Out of every dollar, California, I believe this is it, right?
Yeah.
Every dollar that California pays to the federal government, which is hundreds of billions a year, they get back, about 64% of that. Correct, Marcus? Right?
Yeah.
About 0.64%, or 0.64. It says right here. So, while North Dakota, every dollar they get $7.50 back to them to fund their state. So it just kind of gives you an idea of why California doesn't function that well. But is still a top 10 economy. Still a top 10 economy.
Yeah.
And we're talking about a state that's a top 10 economy in the world compared to other countries. So California, gives hundreds of billions, gets, only a little over half they get back. So, of course, we're going to have a C in infrastructure, a C in education. That's the issue, is that we're not getting back what we paid into the system. And that's why the federal government's out of control, and we need to get the feds out of the cookie jar, and that's the solution is Sovereign California.
And then look who's our, quote, leadership elected representatives up in Sacramento.
Yeah.
Majority progressive Democrats. I mean, they're not even Democrats. They're basically communists at this point.
And you add the federal government encroachment on top of that, look what you get.
No, but these guys should be pushing back against
They should be.
elected representatives
Exactly.
should be pushing back against the feds and saying we want. I mean, because we're all about equality here, right? So why can't we have it as a state, as taxpayers?
Yeah,
That's a great point.
Yeah, why isn't the supermajority, the Democrat supermajority,
you see the
talking about
hypocrisy of the communists? In the state government of California right there, because we have to be equality for all races, for all sexes, for all species, but taxpayers get a screw job done on them.
And not only that, shouldn't they be our state officials, our state legislature? Shouldn't they be hounding the federal government for taking all the social program money? I mean, look,
You would think.
if we want to
They're
fund
big
all our social
progressives.
programs, exactly. Where's our
We
$100
care
billion
about
every year?
We care about the poor.
So on average,
Yeah.
$70 to $100 billion a year we don't get back, but we
Right.
had to pay to the federal government. Imagine all that money spent here in California.
Yeah.
Actually, right? I mean, that's what we're looking at. We're looking at maybe instead of
So this
$9,000.
shows that they're hypocrites and they're full of crap because
Absolutely.
they play the we care about poor people card all day. They don't give a damn about poor people. All they care about is their own power and control.
Well, I'll give them one possible out, and that's that a lot of Californians are simply ignorant
Totally.
about this loss of money.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of the legislature, because of term limits, haven't been in very long, and so I think a lot of them are also ignorant. But it doesn't really make it better. It's like, do you want to go, I'm corrupt or
Yeah.
I'm ignorant?
Yeah.
I'm either incompetent
Can you just be
and I don't know my
intelligent?
job,
Yeah.
or I'm actually corrupt. It's like, oh, okay, I want
Yeah.
the person who's a bumbling, doesn't know how to do their job, or the
Yeah.
person who's intentionally trying to do their job not well.
Totally agree.
Okay,
And you
I mean, I don't know.
Doesn't
but I-
matter. It doesn't even really matter. They're tasked with running. They're tasked with running what the 10th to whatever 8th, whatever number.
Largest
Let's just say
economy, yeah.
10th and be conservative. Largest economy in the
the
world. They're tasked with passing the laws that affect how our economic life functions in this state, and
Yeah.
they're either corrupt or bumbling idiots. I mean, this
Right.
is far out stuff.
Or they're trying
Yeah.
to pass laws that are beholden to certain corporations like Merck. Let's pass the SB 277, which basically is that's like just a free goodie for those big corporations that want to forcibly inoculate children. So we're worrying about passing those laws, but not worried about the $100 billion that we're losing every year.
Well, yeah, and and the solution is sovereign California, because if California is more independent, then there isn't going to be the ability to work through California elections and then jump into the federal ones.
Yes.
People run and then I'm assembly member, now I'm Senate, now I'm moving. What's
Yeah.
the next thing? Go to Washington, D.C.
Exactly.
We
It's
need
all the
to
same.
destroy
You're-
that.
You're
Start
right.
trafficking. Start internationally trafficking firearms like Leland Yee, former senator.
yeah.
So
That's what's next.
so
is get
the-
bigger,
so the-
bigger
yeah.
in the
Yeah.
mafia
So
racket.
Yeah.
we need
Yeah.
to cut it out where if you're a politician in California, you should only be thinking about your political career in
How
California.
about your
You should never
constituents
even
that you
think-
supposedly
Exactly.
represent, right?
It's like Swearingen. She just keeps running for political office, even though she's supposed to. She's already like, oh, I'm going to run for this, but you're mayor of Fresno right now. You know?
So if you cannot ever leave the state of California, then you're going to be more concerned about your reputation in California. And by making it where politicians in California can't think about, I'm going to move to the federal level, then they will be, and this is key, forced to care about their constituents.
Yeah,
So
because that's the only way to go. I mean, that's the highest they can get, right?
Yeah.
I mean, that
Yeah.
state legislature.
You would think
Yeah.
that they would have some type of morals and ethics,
Yeah.
but these people obviously don't. So we have
Yeah.
to take appropriate action.
True
some
that.
of them are good. A lot of them aren't. Some are. You can't tell the difference. So
Yeah.
the way to do it is to change the system
Yeah,
so there is no market impulse for them to do it. The
Yes.
best they can do is, I can be a legislator or a leader here in California.
Yeah.
It never even occurs to them that they could go to Washington, D.C.
So if we became our own nation, then, or have subnational sovereignty
Yeah.
within the United States, then elected officials from California, I mean, we wouldn't have congressmen representing us, right, at the federal level. How would that work?
There would be some of that, and also there would be an attitude shift where Californians just didn't care
Yeah.
who their federal representatives were to
Yeah.
whatever degree, and
Yeah.
so it just didn't matter.
Yeah, just leave us out. We'll handle
Yeah.
ourselves, right?
Yeah, and
we'll,
so-
we'll handle California's issues.
Yeah,
here.
because what you do is you run for office here locally, and then you take all your constituents and your money
Yeah.
and your media attention,
Yeah.
and then transfer it right to your federal campaign.
Yeah.
Well, if nobody in California cares about the federal
Who are you
campaign,
gonna
then you can't
pander to?
Yeah, exactly. You
yeah,
can't transfer
that's a good
it.
point. Yeah.
So Willie Brown. Willie Brown was mayor or something in San Francisco. He got a huge amount of money.
Yeah.
He was never interested in the federal level.
Yeah.
So what does he do? He keeps being involved in California politics. He keeps giving his money to California
Yeah.
politicians.
Yeah. Yeah.
He didn't support federal people, and there's some rumors that he wasn't so supportive of the current president, who was
really?
a fellow African American.
Yeah.
And what that tells me is that if you are forced
Yeah.
to be limited to the California political market,
Yeah.
then you will not be tempted by the federal market, and we will frankly get better leadership out of everyone.
Totally. Well, Tony Stiles, we had him on last week. He says that they're not politicians. They're supposed to be our public servants. And
Yeah.
so, really, but we call them politicians. And that's, I think the problem is that if we just actually cared more, and we're going to have to be forced to care, because especially when the economy continues to go downhill, people need to get involved, because then we will hold the feet to the fire. We will hold these politicians' feet to the fire. So if they don't do a good job, they're out. But the thing that's the problem is only a certain select few vote now. So, if you could
Yeah.
just make sure that those people vote for you and hook up your special interest lobbyists, then hey, you've got the election, you've got it, and you can just keep moving up. Mayor of Fresno, then you go state legislature, then you run for governor, or then you run for Congress, and then now
Yeah.
it doesn't even matter really, because we know our congressmen and our senators at the federal level really don't care about issues here. I mean, really, they don't. I mean, and because why would they? They're in Washington. That's
Yeah.
the big central government.
Yeah.
That they can pass law that affects everyone. So why do they care about representing me here in little old Fresno? So,
Yeah.
and that's a huge reason why Sovereign California is a solution, because honestly, I mean, I don't feel that I'm being represented at the federal level. I mean, I honestly don't.
When you go to D.C., you are owned by D.C.
There
I
you
don't
go.
care who you are.
Hey, even Rand Paul said it. He said, hey, I'm a politician. Hey, Bernie Sanders, I'm a politician.
Hey, and we
People
saw-
when you get to that level, I mean, it's just, I'll change my opinion if it gets me elected.
And we saw what happened to Kennedy, right?
Oh, there you go. Yeah. So,
Yeah, and I know that there's corruption in Sacramento, and I know that there's disingenuous politicians, but
but at least it's here at home.
Exactly.
But they're not.
It's here.
They're not
Exactly.
I can drive to
assassinating them.
Sacramento.
They're not getting
they're not
assassinated.
assassinating
There you go.
people.
There you go.
California
They're trying
has
to make change within California.
and California has a much higher reputation than the empire-wide reputation.
Totally.
Of
Let's talk
catching
about that a
corrupt
little bit.
Politicians.
Yeah.
Of outing them in the news.
Yeah.
Of voting them out. Of
Yeah.
bringing it to attention.
Yeah.
You go into D.C., I'm a corrupt politician means nothing. Here,
yeah.
we had Leland Yee,
Yeah.
but we caught him.
Yeah.
And we crucified him,
Yeah.
and nobody had his
Absolutely.
back, and they threw him to the wolves.
Yeah.
And that there are people as bad as Leland Yee in Washington, D.C., and if it even came out that he did it, he still wouldn't lose his friends
Yeah.
or his backers in D.C.
Yeah, you're
Here
right.
In California,
You're right.
you're screwed.
Yeah.
And that's the difference.
Yeah.
That's the difference. I know it's just a metric different level of corruption.
And there's a disconnect too. So those politicians don't care, and the big power, the federal government, the power structure, they know that. So they're
Yeah.
like, oh, I'm going to just, you're corrupt, perfect, you will work fine here.
Yeah.
But in California, it's more direct. I can drive to Sacramento and protest, or I can drive to Sacramento, set up our booth at
Yeah.
Sovereign California, and
Yeah.
say, we're going we this is our political action committee. We know you're in there. We can see you walking to work.
Yeah.
But I can't see Devin Nunes walking to work because he's in Washington D.C.
Exactly.
I don't even know where he is. I mean, I can call him. They sometimes, they'll talk to me, but I've never spoken to him because he's too big. He's too big. He's
Yeah,
in
yeah.
Washington. He doesn't care about impeaching Obama, which is basically the only. I just want an impeachment attempt. That's it. Just
but-
bring it to the floor. That's all I want.
No, but so
no,
now
it won't even do
this,
that.
This ties into living in the post-constitutional era,
Yes. Nice,
because
thank
obviously they're not representing us
Yes.
constitutionally.
Yeah.
So this is another reason. You got economics, you got the politics of it, of why we need to prepare now, and we can see the writing on the wall about the decline of this empire. And I'd say we need to distance ourselves from Washington,
Totally.
D.C., because we don't want anything to do with those clowns.
Yeah, and people say, "Well, united we stand, divided we fall."
We're falling.
We're all falling.
It's a slow burn right
And
now.
not only that,
Yeah.
folks, if you believe in free market, you shouldn't agree with the federal government, because guess what the federal government do? If you look at this list, it's on Wikipedia, and Marcus and Sam and I have discussed this. Look how many states get back more money than they put in. States.
Yeah.
Let's say there's about about 20 states. Let's say Oregon.
Yeah.
Oregon is about even, but let's go Maryland, Vermont, Connecticut, Idaho, Virginia, Tennessee, Montana, Alaska, Hawaii, Pennsylvania, Arizona, Maine, Wisconsin, Indiana, Mississippi, West Virginia, Kentucky, New Mexico, Alabama, South Carolina, and North Dakota. They all get more money than they put in as far as federal income tax goes per state. So our federal government is a big central government, and it's a communist-style government which redistributes the wealth. Do you want your tax dollars to go to some person in Alabama that sits on his ass? Or whatever program they're running there, or some dam that they're building there? Your tax dollars, Californians, are being spent, and other states too are putting more in than they're getting back. That's not how it's supposed to work, and that's the racket of the federal government. That's just ridiculous. We got, almost half the states they basically can't swim by themselves. But we, as one of the top 10 economies in the world, as Californians, we have to help support them float. I mean, honestly, there's not a lot of manufacturing going on in America, but we do have value-added products here in California. We got Silicon Valley. We have big financial hubs. We have agriculture, huge. Of course, we have the drought, but still, we produce fifth largest food producer in the world, right? So we can float on our own. Can Alabama? Can North Dakota? I don't think so, because the federal government has to give $7 for every dollar they give. The feds give North Dakota. I mean, just looking at these numbers they're on Wikipedia. It's just, yeah.
So we're basically a client state of Washington, D.C., a colony out here in California. And they don't like us, right, Marcus? They have a very negative attitude, and we see that in the national mainstream media, the hate toward California.
Yeah.
Yeah, talk about that a little bit, because I think people don't know, and we're going to keep reiterating, how much the rest of the states and the feds they're disingenuous to Californians and the state as a whole.
Well, I mean, just if you're at home or on your smartphone or whatever, type in Ohio hates California, and then change it to Texas, and then change it to Illinois, and then change it to New York, and then change it to name any other state.
Washington, D.C.
Washington, D.C., Washington State, Oregon, Montana. And what you're going to see is regular Americans voicing their opinion about how I hate California. Yeah. Now, do the study and then switch it to Ohio people hate Montana. Texas people hate Montana. New Yorkers hate. You're not going to find it.
You don't find it.
It's a simple test. And that's why I love the internet. The internet's a survey. Anybody can participate. Everybody puts their opinions on out there. Do a test of people from different states and their opinion of California, and then switch the states. And what you're going to find is overwhelming.
Yeah.
Pages and 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 pages of opinions by Americans on California, and no other state even comes close. It just doesn't, and
we're the cash cow, and we're the cash cow for the rest of the states.
Right, but if you look at the national media, they talk about how California is the welfare queen, and it's a drain on America, and it takes more money.
The feds are the welfare queen.
Exactly. Most Californians watch the national media because, as Sam said, there's 6 channels now that run everything.
Six corporations.
They control all your TV.
Yeah, and
all your news media.
The national media says California is a taker.
Yeah.
When in fact it's totally opposite. And so
it's
makes
inverted reality.
Well,
it's propaganda.
I understand why some of the legislatures might be ignorant, and most Californians are ignorant because they watch the national news. And
we've been lied to.
All 6 corporations pump out this national line of, here's this queen of welfare, and she's just sucking resources from everything and giving up. When actually it's literally the opposite picture. America is the welfare queen. Yeah. America.
And I think a big problem is people like to hate on Californians because we're very diverse here. Yeah. We're the most diverse place in the world, okay? Yeah. And also, most people get along, for the most part. I mean, Californians are easygoing. People like us. Other countries view us they view California. When you say, "Hey, I'm from Ohio," they say, "Oh yeah, you Americans are dumb. We don't like you. You're
must
for
have
policy
voted
stocks."
for Boehner.
But guess what? You go out of the country and you say, "I'm from California." People respond way differently. They love you. They say, "Man, you guys are cool. You're awesome." And you know what? Honestly, I take pride in being a California. Californian.
Yeah.
Okay, and so when I found out all this information, reading Marcus's book, California's Next Century, go pick it up on Amazon. Read through it, and it really is in detail. It's in depth on basically how California has been screwed over, and now we've been demonized. And America, really, the federal government is really the welfare queen, and they are using the public's ignorance because 5% of the people know this information, Marcus, in your book.
That's
I mean,
generally
on average,
how I feel.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you guys have this chart. If Weaponized News would be kind enough to put it up,
Yes, we'll put it up on.
you have
the
the chart,
website.
and in the chart it has all the sources. But basically, you look at USA spending, transparency, and the IRS tax stats gross collection by type and tax and state. And you can see California gets about 64% of every dollar it gives to the federal government. Now, you compare that to the infrastructure report card by the American Society of Civil Engineers in 2012, where California's infrastructure was given a C overall. And then you compare that to state education rankings by the American Legislative Exchange Council in 2013. And then you compare that to education spending per student by state by Governing Magazine in 2013, and all this stuff is there. I'm just rushing through the citations to point this out because check it out on the chart, but here's basically the bottom line. 39 states get more money from the federal government than California does. They get a better deal financially just right off the top. That's 4/5 of all of the empire.
But just to clarify here, it was our money in the first place.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah, we
Yeah.
made it's our
Yeah.
income tax from
Yeah.
from the state.
Yeah.
So we are the cash cow. Honestly, people here. I'm sorry. Yeah, we have welfare programs just like every other state. Okay, which we can disagree about. I disagree with welfare as a whole, but that doesn't matter. Is that we paid into it. We are the cash cow, and then now the feds get to redistribute our money
Yeah.
that we've produced here,
So-
our products.
So I just want everybody to picture this thing. Here's you got a good job, but you work hard, okay? And you own I'm just going to go with this one, a Corvette.
Yeah.
You work hard, you pay that. Your cousin doesn't work very hard, likes showing up not to work and being late and kind of slacks off in the job and can't keep a job and is generally kind of like not really serious and kind of the black sheep of the family. Your cousin comes over and says, hey, I need help. You need to help me out. And so you give him some money and he goes, no. I need you to support me so I too can get a Corvette. Well, hold on now.
Yeah.
I believe in helping family, but how about a 15-year-old Toyota?
Yeah,
No. I deserve a Corvette, even
Yeah.
though I don't work that hard,
Yeah.
because you have one. So you need to
Yeah.
give me your money so that I too can live just as good as you when I don't work as hard. Keep that picture in mind. And so here it goes. 39 states get a better deal than California. 37 states have infrastructure. Roads, dams, schools, seaports, airports, equal to California. That means you're paying for 37 states to have a Corvette like you, to your own detriment. 38 states have an education system equal or better than California. So you're paying for people to have, you're paying for 4/5 of all of the empire to have infrastructure as good or better than you, an education system as good or better than you. And this is the kicker for me, because if you're a liberal, you shouldn't be jumping up and down on this. 25 states, half of the empire, gets more money for each student in school than California is able to provide for their own children. So you're paying for 4/5 of the country,
Yeah.
and they get to have education and infrastructure equal to or better than you, and half of them are able to provide better for their children than you. And that's your money. So your cousin who doesn't work comes over and says, I want a Corvette.
Yeah.
Hey, I'm having trouble feeding my kids. I don't care.
Yeah.
You give me the money for my Corvette because I feel I deserve it just as much. Are you going to work as hard as me? No. Give me the money for the Corvette too. And that's the situation, and that's what that chart shows.
Californians, liberal, conservative, progressive, libertarian, independent, I don't care. You need to don't be ignorant about what's happening is that the feds are the welfare queens taking from our state. Okay, so even if you believe in the socialist style and supporting all these welfare programs, government assistance, all these social programs you want, more money in education, all that stuff,
Government-run healthcare.
government-run healthcare, we have to keep the money in the state in order for it to work, because when you have a big central government that takes from you, it'll redistribute how it pleases and also keep a lot for itself, launch a bunch of wars that are unconstitutional. So if you're a liberal progressive, Obama is not a liberal progressive, okay? Because he's an authoritarian that takes from all your social programs that I thought you wanted to have social programs here. Well, we can't fund it, okay? Because the feds already took our money. So if you are a big liberal, progressive, or a conservative, stop arguing about how you guys have differences in, politically. You differ politically. You're being robbed. Everyone in California is being robbed, and then all the other states don't appreciate it, and they're ignorant as well. But overall, it's just ignorance. Go to Wikipedia and just search federal spending by state, and you will find the amount of the percentages right here for each state. And Marcus wrote a book, California's Next Century, talking about all this, and he cites it very well. And so just go do your research. And also, if you don't want to do your research, don't complain. Shut up, okay? So if you want to complain about it, though,
straight up,
go do your research, okay? Anyway.
It's more fun to come up with mindless arguments that are logical fallacies, and come up with all these blaming people, and just to never nail down any kind of positive action, and just say, "Oh, you're a crazy conspiracy theorist."
It's a lot easier to do that, right, Sam?
It's
a lot easier.
Intellectually bankrupt, but that's the reason we're in this state that we're in.
Folks, Marcus Ruiz-Evans, author of California's Next Century, research director for Sovereign California. Support him. Go buy his book. Go to sovereignca.org or secondcaliforniarepublic.com, I believe.
Yes, sir.
Folks, we'll see you on the next hour. Weaponizednews.com is our website. We'll see you on the other half.